There's long been a battle over these pristine native forests. A fight that is set to be completely transformed.
Instead of the native forests being managed principally for logging, the forests across Australia will now have the opportunity to be managed for storing carbon, actually drawing carbon out of the atmosphere.
The timber that comes out of our state forests, which are sustainably harvested, are a critical product that we rely on every day.
In Australia, big carbon emitters like mines or airlines can buy carbon credits to offset their emissions. Carbon credits are created by projects that reduce or avoid emissions, such as reforestation or removing cattle from land. The theory is that 1 tonne of emissions created by big business can be offset by investing in another project that reduces or stores an equivalent tonne of carbon.
Today, I'm pleased to announce which proposals will be progressed for further method development, as assessed and recommended independently by the Emissions Reduction Assurance Committee.
A fortnight ago, the federal government announced 4 new carbon storage methods chosen for further development.
Now, the methods that will proceed are the improved native forest management in multiple use public forests.
This method, proposed by the New South Wales government, encourages state-owned forestry corporations to slow down or even stop allowing logging of native growth forests to generate carbon credits.
They're critical for storing large amounts of carbon. They're the most important carbon stores in the terrestrial environment.
Former Federal Head of Treasury Ken Henry now chairs the Australian Climate and Biodiversity Foundation, which has worked closely with the New South Wales government on the method.
For each tonne of carbon that is then drawn out of the atmosphere, the forestry manager will be awarded what's called an Australian Carbon Credit Unit, and they'll be able to sell that on the market.
The idea is that state governments could then use that money for managing the forest and bushfire risk, and also to help the industry transition away from using public native growth timber.
On the modelling that we've had done, we estimate that in New South Wales alone, that will generate about $100 million a year in revenue. And we've calculated that this will be enough to employ about 1,700 people in management of the native forests.
But industry representatives are worried about the proposal's long-term goal.
It's asking for carbon credits to halt or stop harvesting operations in state forests. Carbon credits don't create the products, the critical products that we rely on every day, from power poles to flooring to decking to cladding in our housing market.
New South Wales, Tasmania and Queensland still log public native growth forests, while Victoria and Western Australia have banned the practice.
If we couldn't access any timber from state forests, that would essentially mean 50% fall in volume. So if we were not able to get that, it would really mean that the mill would probably close.
Hayden Timbers is a hardwood sawmill employing 48 people on New South Wales' mid-north coast. Business manager Noel Atkins argues that a transition away from logging public native growth forests to relying on new plantations would take decades.
To transition is a long period of time, and you're growing a plantation for 30 to 50 years and then you get maybe 1 or 2 cuts. So you need to keep the industry going, and the only way to do that is to maintain a native forestry industry.
I have some concerns to make sure that this process is sensible and it's not gamed.
Ecologist David Lindenmayer has long fought for an end to native growth logging, but is cautious about the proposed carbon storage method.
There are areas of what we call unproductive forest on very steep slopes that would never normally be targeted for logging. And so what some of the agencies might say is, oh, well, we're not going to log that bit of country, so we should get carbon credits for it. The reality is that they were never going to log it anyway, and so they're going to get an income stream from not logging places they never would have logged, but then use that money to continue logging elsewhere in the forest estate.
The method development process will be required to deal with that risk. So although the method has been announced, there's a lot of work that now has to take place.
A spokesman for the New South Wales Environment Department told 7:30 there'll be consultation and further technical assessments before the federal government makes a final decision on whether to approve the method's use.
There is a need to maintain a sustainable industry, and we can do that in conjunction with meeting ecological standards. There's no need to close it to achieve it. We can work together.